Neomuna, the sister city to our last, the neon jewel of Neptune. With Lightfall behind us and the final shape ahead, I thought it a good time to talk about Neomuna, its people, and the setting itself within Destiny. Welcome back everyone to another Embrace Destiny video. Welcome back you, and welcome back me. Been a while since I've made any content here. Apologies for that. Real life and work got in the way, but so too did the greater community. The first few months after Lightfall were tiring. So many conversations, so much passion. It was just a lot to engage with. I've continued to be active over on my stream, link below, and my Discord, so if you'd like to hang out, we'd love to have you. With Lightfall a few months behind us and my life rebalancing, I wanted to get back into lore videos by first talking about Neomuna. I was pretty excited when we first started getting hints about Lightfall's destination, and that grew when breadcrumbs started dropping in various lore pieces. A secret city hidden on Neptune, a whole group of people we never knew about. What would they be like? What would their city be like? How would it help us in the fight ahead? Landing on Neomuna was exactly what I wanted. An open cityscape, the music swelled, and we could actually go there. Unlike the last city, it's possible to navigate around Neomuna, to explore, to see where the people lived and feel immersed in it. And boy, did I explore. Lost sectors, the Cloud Arc. I poked my nose into every corner of the city wanting to know more. I love all the elements that make it feel like a real place. Graffiti and murals, living spaces, recreational spaces, seating, foodware, and the Thrillodrome is a fun addition. Let's start by talking about the elephant in the room, or rather those not in the room, the Neomuni, the people of Neomuna. Not long ago I put a poll out on Twitter asking what others thought of Neomuna and its people, and a fairly common response I received was, what people? The lack of people running around Neomuna is a huge letdown for some. When the city is full of potential, it can also feel quite empty. We learn early on and from multiple sources that the Neomuni have hidden from the Black Fleet, putting their bodies in suspended animation and uploading their minds to the Cloud Arc, a kind of simulated version of the city. Now, personally, I found this to be interesting and clever. Let's face it, games rarely feature large populations of NPCs wandering around. I haven't played the widest variety of games, but the only one I know of that truly did this was Assassin's Creed Unity, and that game was super buggy on launch. So much so that many people dismiss it, thinking only of the glitches, but honestly, go back and play it now. It's great. But yeah, Unity featured seemingly all of Paris ready to unleash the revolution, and then the next game in the series, Syndicate, featured half-empty London streets. I remember being excited about Batman Arkham City, only to be disappointed to find out that the Institute had annexed part of the city, so it was not well populated either. Having NPCs running around is expensive. It costs a lot of time and money, and aside from making a place feel more alive, serves no real purpose. So I wasn't holding my breath, nor was I too surprised to find the streets of Neomuna empty. What did impress me was the cleverness of the Cloud Arc. Here, the Neomuni are living out their lives in a simulated city, and shadows, wispy, holographic avatars of themselves are visible in the real world. It's an interesting approach. Developmentally, I would imagine that having these avatars is far cheaper and easier than having fully rendered NPCs, and it allows the city to be empty, good for costs, but also semi-populated, good for immersion. Through some of the after-campaign quests, we learn a little more about the Cloud Arc and the people within. Quests and patrols around the space allow you to interact with them. So while it wasn't too surprising or disappointing to me to see a nearly empty city, I was glad for this approach, this viewpoint into the lives of the people of Neomuna. Then of course, there's Jizu Colorando, from Neomuna City News. What a name. What a voice. I love this. I really do. And I know I'm not alone. I've seen people recall the radio messages in Destiny 1's tower, and Jizu reminds me of this. It's a great way to add flavor, as well as context, to the city. To learn random things that make the place feel alive, but also to hear the messages update as events unfold, with dialogue building on what has been happening in the game. It's a long-standing complaint in many games, but especially in Destiny, to have NPCs say the same thing for years, or nothing at all. Hearing Red War dialogue from tower NPCs is really annoying when the Red War was so long ago. Sure, characters can still be thinking about it, traumatized by it, but, other stuff is going on. There's a lot of talk in the community right now about costs, pricing, and microtransactions. With seasons going up in price, all games and DLCs increasing, as well as all the extra purchase options, there is enough here to fuel the fires of frustration. I know. And while it's an unpopular statement, it is true that game development can be expensive. I've said this for a while now, but I believe Destiny to almost be over-engineered at times. Look at the art, the music, the attention to detail. It's kind of crazy to have guns where the hammer of a revolver moves ever so slightly on trigger pull, and all the million other things we see. While I'm always wishing for more dialogue, more features to help the game feel more alive, adding a single piece of dialogue probably requires 10 times more effort than most realize. Someone has to write it, edit it, voice it, localize and translate it into a dozen languages, put it in the game, make it proc at the right time, etc., etc. I don't want to push back too hard against the frustration people are feeling over pricing. I'm not really involved in that argument, so I don't have much to say. But I will say that I enjoy what Neomuna has, and while I hope for more dialogue and development with its people, I know how slow and trickling things can be here. Next topic, Nimbus. I've made it pretty clear in my other channels, and I don't want to exactly go beat for beat reviewing everything about Lightfall, but I'll say a few things. Nimbus is a fun, interesting, developing character who is maybe shortfalled. Short-elixny. Nimbus was curtailed by Bungie's choice to spread Lightfall over its year, rather than entirely focus within the expansion. So much was happening, the fleet was attacking, the Veil. So while Nimbus can feel a little disjointed during the campaign, they are a person who has been removed from the real threats our experienced Guardian has faced. And the post-campaign stuff really adds a lot of context and potential for the character. Also, it should be 1,000,000% obvious, but because so, I sometimes don't say it. Nimbus's pronouns are they, them. Have criticism of the character, fine, but if your problems are based on bigotry, then unsub from my channel, go hide in a hole, and never come back. I understand criticism of Nimbus based on issues of tone, writing, timing. But transphobia is not only a short-sighted, small, stupid, and hateful way of being, it's especially stupid in gaming, and especially in a game like Destiny, where cis-heteronormality is far from the norm, and diversity and inclusion are at the core of both the game and the studio, and much of the community. Not as much as I'd like, but I'm rambling here. Next, how does Neomuna fit in with Destiny? I've seen and heard a fair share of discussion related to this, along the lines of concern over Neomuna making other parts of the game less valid or impactful. The most obvious place to start is the last city. No longer the last, it seems. I will admit, as a super stan of the last safe city, it felt a little annoying to have yet another city, and this one we could actually go to. I've wanted to go to the last city for so long, but anyway, I'll probably make a video on why that will never happen later. In any case, yes, Neomuna does, by definition, invalidate the name of the last city, and while it can be annoying to find that out, to find about a city hidden and retconned in, does it or does it not fit in well within the story and setting of Destiny so far? Truly a matter of opinion, I suppose, but here's mine. The last city has been growing and changing. The Elixir Quarter has seen some improvements, and as far as the lore is concerned, the city has been slowly growing to accept Elixir residents. The Cabal don't exactly seem to be as present, but they are mentioned alongside us as allies of humanity, so maybe one day they'll come to live there as well. Having a new city be discovered, this retroactive continuity, can be a bit disjointed, but I think it has been handled well. I'll likely cover the history of Neomuna in another video, but From the brief hint at the end of Witch Queen, the Lightfall pre-order bonuses, the Speed Metal Shell, and Quicksilver Storm, we learned something was out there. From the lore of the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, we learn a little more about how Maya Sundaresh and the Ishtar Collective may have been responsible for setting this up. From all of this, and the ongoing Veil containment recordings, I feel like Bungie has gradually aligned the pieces well enough that the story fits. When something comes out of nowhere with no supporting evidence, that can be annoying. But when it fits nicely in gaps left in the story, developed and used well within the current context, that usually sits better for me. And Neomuna is truly that. An offshoot of the Golden Age, another survivor of the collapse, an interesting nexus point between the Exos, Vex, Ishtar, Siva, the Veil, even Savathun and Nezarec. Neomuna sits at the heart of a lot of the action and mystery currently under focus in Destiny. Now, is that a problem? Is it annoying that everything in the game right now points toward this one setting? Maybe for some, but it's not the first time. Beyond Light was all about Europa, Forsaken, and many times later were all about the Dreaming City. Like it or not, the game does highlight certain things, and often, when moving on, doesn't come back for quite a while. I for one am glad for Neomuna. There's a lot of interesting things that could come out of this place. Ikora has already begun speaking with archivist Quinn, facilitating a cultural exchange, which will likely be like the Renaissance for the last city, with access to golden and pre-Golden Age texts they once thought lost. The Last Day lore book talks a lot about cooking and mentions food and ingredients that I think most of Destiny had thought long extinct. The technology itself is quite advanced, and I think it should help raise the variety and functionality of life in Destiny. Bringing me to my next point. What if the people of Neomuna don't want to help? This is a fair concern, and one that my Twitter poll was met with. Some view the people of Neomuna as naive at best, conspiratorial, corrupt, or xenophobic at worst. The context of that is fair. The city hid away on Neptune, basically standing by and doing nothing while all the various tragedies occurred throughout the history of Destiny. The Reef Wars, the Taken King, Red War, so many times humanity needed help and Neomuna did nothing. That's the risk of retconning. That's the other side of the coin. Again, we'll cover the history later, but it seems that Neomuna did try to come back to Earth. In the Stargazer and Lamanic Lead lore cards, we learned that a team came back around the time of the Warlords to teach and preach, to bring light to the Dark Ages. They were met with extreme violence from the Warlords, leading to the erasure of their ship, Exodus Indigo, and of Neptune's colony from Rasputin's records. Since then, they appear to have been truly isolated. Juzu Colorando initially called us warlords, and the Neomuni appear to have a suspicious and very outdated view of Earth. So what's up? Well, it is likely that the leaders of Neomuna kept their people well and truly in the dark. While that's quite unfortunate, it's not the first time. The Awoken people began and lived in much the same way, both within the Distributary, that other dimension where they could have lived as immortals, as well as within the Reef. They purposefully kept hidden and kept their distance. After returning to the Reef, some of their people did decide to come to Earth to help, and they were met with mixed review. Mara wanted to help, but also wanted to protect her people, so she kept them away for quite some time. Criticize it, sure, but there is a recurring trend of isolated groups choosing isolation in the face of the dangers of both alien invasion as well as power-hungry corruption in Destiny. So, Neomuna is not surprising in that light. As for its people being kept in the dark, well, it's questionable, sure, but not surprising. Plus, Neomuna had its own concerns. The leaders were likely wishing to devote their time to pushing the Vex back, protecting the Veil, even though they weren't sure what it was other than a battery/computer for their Cloud Ark, as well as inspiring their people to lead happy and productive lives on Neptune. Ultimately, Neomuna's isolation makes sense to me from a character level, and while it does have unfortunate consequences, there too are points supporting their move to stay isolated, safe, and away from all the tragedy that happened elsewhere. I don't blame them, but I do hope that the general trend of alliance that started with the Awoken, then to House Light, continuing with the Cabal, hopefully continues with Neomuna. Before we get to the end of the video, I'll share some short hopes for the future, because why not? I hope that Neomuna continues being featured. I hope that we learn more about the people, see evidence that they continue to lead lives within the Cloud Ark. I presume, given the slow nature of Destiny's world development, that the people will stay within the Cloud Ark for a long time, that even with the invading Black Fleet seems destroyed, that the threat will still remain. Given that, and even among the challenges I mentioned earlier, I would love it if we could go into the Cloud Ark more. Bungie has an opportunity here for interesting quests and missions. The Cloud Ark is a simulation, and the people within it can change their form into whatever they want. It would be neat to have a mission where we were transformed within the Cloud Ark into a very strange form. Turn us into a wisp of light that could float around and witness events, interact with things. Turn us into a mathematical equation that floats around a bunch of cephalopods. Destiny has such a wide and wonderful potential, and a simulated world is a great place to experiment with that. Could even eventually try giving us an Elixir form, see if players truly like that, and how that would look from a developmental point of view, huh? No. I know, I'm a dreamer. So let's wrap this up. Neomuna, once lost, long hidden, has been revealed to us with Lightfall. The setting features a city under siege, its people hidden, kept safe, only present in dialogue, lore entries, and as ghostly avatars floating around. Standing guard is their Cloud Strider Nimbus, an augmented person growing into their role and into the greater knowledge of threats beyond Neptune. The city is futuristic, colorful, both full and empty. It features technology beyond the last city and an odd sense of lineage that carries back before the collapse. It came as a surprise, retconned into our world, but such is the way of writing and world building. Through quests and lore, Neomuna has been well inserted into Destiny's history, and we can only hope to continue learning about it and working together. Personally, I enjoy the city, learning about its people, and see a great potential for new and exciting things both within the city and as a result of its presence and collaboration across the game. What do you think? Do you like Neomuna, or do you wish to move on? What do you think about this people, and their choice to stay isolated all this time? Do you want to go into the Cloud Ark, and if so, what form would you choose? Feel free to leave your comments below, and consider checking out the stream and Discord links in the video description. As I said, we'd love to say hi. Thank you everyone for your patience and support. It means a lot knowing that I can take my time and focus on keeping myself happy and healthy, moving back to lore videos when I can. I hope, with this, to catch the bug again and have more videos out for you soon, but I'll take it one step at a time. As always everyone, please be safe, be kind, and I'll see you all next time. Bye now.